Welcome to The Hop, a marketing podcast with a business edge. I'm your host, Matthew Taylor-Farrington, co-founder of Purple Bunny Marketing. Here, we cut through the fluff and bring you real marketing and business insights, covering everything from branding to digital strategy, business automation, IT, cybersecurity, and even some leadership. No fluff, no jargon, just smart insights. So let's hop to it. Hello, today we're joined by Martin from BizGuard. Welcome, thanks for coming along. And today we're going to be diving into a topic that's more relevant than ever at the moment, and we're talking about AI, and I guess in the sense around business security and what it means for your business and how it could impact your business. So we'll dive straight into it, or hop to it, as we should say. So I guess the most obvious questions are, we're all diving in. I know, we've got ChatGPT, we've got a couple other AIs that we're playing with, but are we all just really handing the keys to our business over? Like, what securities are in place? They're getting a lot of data, and what securities do we have in place, or confidence do I have as a business owner that my information isn't going to be shared or used or in some form? Yeah,
it's a really complicated thing. So I guess one of the first things is that there's a lot of messaging information, there's a lot of push out there at the moment for business owners to stop doing things they're not good at. And I hear this all the time, and it's coming from every industry. And part of that is obviously people want to sell their services, but there's a truth to that business owners really should be focusing on what their superpower is and not try to do everything and be the chief everything officer. So totally get it. And I'm in that position as well, by the way. I'm not immune to that.
Yes.
So it seems like AI is a really good solution to just do all that stuff that isn't high value for you. And in many ways it can be, but the risk is in business in principle that you always need to be careful who you outsource stuff to. Right?
Yes.
So it's no different to employing somebody and not background checking them, or working with an agency and not looking at their previous work. AI is a little bit the same in that you're kind of never sure what you're going to get.
Yes.
But the difference is with AI, you are very much in the driver's seat. And a lot of businesses I see implementing AI really aren't giving a lot of thought to that aspect of it. So they're just kind of, shoving it in or letting the staff pick their own tools. But there's not a lot of thinking that goes into whether it's actually going to be right for the business.
Yes.
And there's not even a lot of market expertise yet to help guide with that, which makes it more difficult. So
yes, agreed. And there's a lot, AI is impacting a lot of fields, especially our field in particular, and there's no guidance. There's no, as they say, no guardrails. It's kind of like, okay, we're flying blind here and trialing different things. So when we connect AI to our systems, are we giving it too much access to sensitive data without realizing it, I guess?
There tends to be a trend that I see. So one of the things that is really prevalent is that people focus so much on the upside of AI, which is it can save all this time and do all this work for us.
Yes.
But in doing so, they're kind of giving it access to everything. So I'll give you a real world example. One of the things that we do for our clients is whenever they want to connect an application into their Google or Microsoft that asks for access to data, that goes through an approval process, and we review that for them to make sure that they understand the risks. And what we've found recently is a few clients adding ChatGPT Microsoft integration, which is really, really cool, can do some awesome stuff. But what you're doing by just clicking that approve button is you're giving it access to all of your data, including everything in your OneDrive, everything in your SharePoint. So all of the shared documents in your Microsoft tenancy are all of a sudden accessible to ChatGPT. Now, obviously, that's so that you can then tell it, hey, work on this document, work on that document. But now you've just given OpenAI open slather access to literally all of your files in Microsoft. So it's one of those things where it's very easy to just click that approve button and not understand the implication of that long list of things it's asking for. But a lot of people are just clicking approve and away they go. And so these AI tools have phenomenal levels of access to business data. And worse still, even if you stop using that tool, unless you revoke that access persists even after you stop using it. I've seen a few examples myself out in the field where I'm quite concerned. I've had a client on a free ChatGPT upload a customer file, as in data. And I was just like, whoa, no. Like that's a massive risk. That's concern. You have no idea what's going to happen with that data. And, from a legislative perspective and, from privacy, it's very important that data is protected. Well, I'll go
secure.
one step further and say we actually do know what's going to happen to that data, because if you're using the free version of ChatGPT, it's actually in the agreement that you implicitly accept, which is anything you enter, which includes files that you upload, text that you type, responses it gives you, can be reused by OpenAI to retrain the model. And so potentially that information becomes part of the AI in the next training cycle, which is just terrifying.
Yeah, agreed. It is concerning. And I guess everyone's just jumping in using this tool without really understanding the impacts that it might have. So what's the worst thing you've seen happen when a business didn't think through the security risks of using AI?
So there's actually been some really publicized cases, and probably the disaster scenario and kind of why this is really top of mind and has been for a long time. It was a really, really famous case that actually happened when ChatGPT was only a few months old in the public. So ChatGPT got released, I think it was November 22, and this happened early 23. With some employees at Samsung actually uploaded source code, so they were creating software, and they uploaded the source code to ChatGPT to get some help with optimizing it.
Yes.
And they didn't obviously think through the implications of doing that. The reason this hit the media is because a security researcher a few months later went into ChatGPT and was trying to figure out its utility for understanding how to sort of, compromise things, to see if hackers could use it. And the security researcher basically said, hey, I've got this model of Samsung device and I'm trying to do this thing to hack into it. And it started giving very specific advice along the lines of, well, because there's these problems in these bugs in the source code, you can actually exploit that and work around the security problem.
So it
because the software engineers had literally given it the source code, and it had not only ingested the source code but analyzed it as well and understood where the flaws were in it.
Yes.
So that actually drove Samsung to implement very, very quickly an AI usage policy, as you might imagine. But it highlighted to the whole industry what can go wrong in a worst case scenario.
Yes. Yeah, and I think more and more now, I know in my business, we're currently going through that journey. And I know from a legal standpoint, lawyers and solicitors are starting to look at this as well now. But having policies in your business around the usage of AI for your employees.
And it's going to become even more critical soon because there's potentially HR legislative changes coming as well with regards to how you implement AI in your business and making sure that the people implications of that are actually considered. So we could see a scenario in the next year or two where people could actually bring workplace cases in front of the commission due to the implementation of AI done improperly.
Yeah, agreed. I think we're gonna see a lot of change in this space over the next little while. Whether it's legislative from what we can and can't do in a business, or how it impacts, to how we should use it and frame it, I guess, within the business. So
for sure.
All right. So we kind of leaned into it a little bit before, but how can AI impact the security of our customer data? And should we be worried about customer data? Like we talked before about the free tools. Obviously, even still, if I use the paid versions of these softwares and these applications, should I just be going, for example, I'm aware of that customer that I referred to before. They had uploaded it because they just wanted to cleanse the list. Basically, they wanted a quick, easy way to cleanse the data list and output a database. Should we be trusting AI to just do that sort of stuff?
I think it's a bit of a complicated one because not all AIs are built the same. So the first thing I'll say is that virtually all AI tools, certainly all the ones I've used, have the option where you can basically say, don't use my data to train the model. That's typically only available on paid plans.
Yes.
But I know that OpenAI have that in theirs. Interestingly enough, even social media, LinkedIn has that option now. So people watching this might not be aware, but unless you've gone and turned the feature off, by default, everything you post on LinkedIn can be reused by LinkedIn to train their AI.
Yes.
That's a feature you can go into your profile and turn off. So if you turn those off, then of course it's down to how much you trust the vendor as to whether they will actually honor that.
Yes.
But hypothetically, it does create a little bit more breathing room. I'd still say, though, that doesn't mean that you want to be putting anything commercially sensitive or private in there.
Correct.
If you're going to do that, really the only good solution is to use the sort of AI tools that guarantee privacy.
Yes.
So one example is Microsoft Copilot. Whether you like it or hate it, it's kind of there. But one of the benefits of it, if you're on the paid plan, the security around it means that all of the data that you give Copilot or that it produces stays within your Microsoft tenancy.
Yes.
And so Google have been spruiking that Gemini is now doing the same thing as well. I haven't looked too deeply into that because that's a little bit newer.
Yep.
But certainly Microsoft have built a pretty good business around making sure that security is paramount. So definitely I would say if you're going to be working with sensitive documents, if you're on Google, stick with Gemini for those documents. If you're on Microsoft, go and pay for Copilot for those documents. And then you're kind of safe in the sense that at least you're already invested in that vendor and the security they have, and you're certainly not introducing additional risk on top of that.
Yes. Yeah, agreed. I guess changing up a little bit away from data and what we're giving it, I guess, a little bit, but can AI actually, I guess, help protect us from cyber threats, or does it make our data more vulnerable?
So this is one of those interesting things about AI. It's a little bit like the word cloud. The
Yes.
marketing people have got a hold of it, and now it means anything and everything. No offense.
None taken, but we do that. Yes.
No, it's fun. But the wonderful thing about AI is that as a tool set, it's applicable to so many different things. So while on one side people are using it improperly, some people are definitely without even knowing it most of the time. And
Correct.
That introduces security problems. On the other hand, AI is actually being used by security researchers to do pretty amazing stuff. And again, I'll pick on Microsoft just because they're pretty active in this space, but they have a whole platform in their Azure Cloud Services that security providers can basically set up and stick all of their security logs into these databases, and then use a custom-built Microsoft Copilot AI that then understands and reviews all of that information. So the idea being that it can draw non-intuitive insights, so inobvious things that a security researcher might not even connect dots on.
Could have missed.
But it's looking at these millions of different log entries and finding patterns and trends that otherwise would have gone unnoticed.
Yes.
So on that side, it's actually already protecting us in the back ends of some of these larger platforms. But I think it's always going to be a bit of push and pull because hackers are also starting to use AI. It's just another tool that everybody's got access to now.
I know, and it's so scary now, given that, ChatGPT, you can now create your AI agent. And you can have your agent go in and stalk people's Instagram profiles and, tell you certain things and monitor this and send an email and do all these wonderful things, which is great if you're setting it up for the right purposes. However, as we all know, whilst great intentions are there for what the software should be used for, hackers will use it now for other aspects, I guess. And what we are going to see, I think, is an influx of email spamming, your SMS spamming, all those sorts of things.
Absolutely.
Because now they can just amplify it so much faster using AI, basically.
Yep, exactly.
So, all right. So if the AI is learning from all my business data, where do I draw the line on what it has access to? And is there a security concern that I should be concerned about?
Yeah, I think we kind of talked about that earlier, but I want to build on that, right? So choosing the right tools and making sure that, if you're in Microsoft and your data's already in Microsoft, use Copilot. If you're in Google and your data's already in Google, use Gemini, which are the two sort of AI tools built into those platforms. But more fundamentally, what I'm finding a lot of businesses are struggling with, and this is something, again, a lot of the time enterprise, like government agencies, really big business will start doing these things, and it just progressively becomes more important for that to filter down to smaller businesses.
Yes.
But just understanding what data you have and where it is and how sensitive it is something a lot of small businesses are losing their handle on, because there's so many different tools where, we've got this CRM over here. Some businesses have multiple CRMs. They've got social media over there. They've got, some line of business apps over here, finance app over there. And just understanding where all of your data is and what the sensitivity is sometimes a struggle. And that is a really good starting point, because once you kind of have built that out, you can then start to also look at your documents. So not all of your documents will be of equal sensitivity. There'll be some stuff that you probably don't want to get out there in the world, but if it does, it's not the biggest of deals. And then there'll be the private stuff where that's going to be like a business ending event if that gets out.
Yes.
So just understanding what documents you've got and categorizing those and flagging those can then also inform how you want to interact with that data with different AI tools. So I think there's some foundational stuff that most small businesses need to be doing, preferably sooner than later, because as soon as that AI comes knocking, that's going to solve all your problems. If you don't understand what you need to give it, it's still going to not really be that helpful.
Agreed. And I think that's the thing, right? As a business owner, there's just so much change.
Yeah.
From a technology standpoint, there's just so much change happening so quickly, so fast. We don't understand it all. We're kind of just jumping in and giving it what we think, and we're not actually taking the time to sit down and set up the right framework and actually put the right things in place.
It's actually a little bit. It's a little bit like someone in a looks good, suit and tie, turns up and says, "Hey, I know I'm knocking on your door and you don't know me, but I can do all of this stuff. Here's my resume. And here's all of the wonderful stuff that people have done and I've done for other people, and I can solve all of your problems."
Yes.
And you just basically go, "Cool, there's our filing cabinet, have full access to our office, just go nuts."
Yes.
And you're letting them into the business without any kind of training, introduction, guardrails,
Correct.
to limit what they can do or what they've got access to. I mean, most people
Yes.
would hear that and go, "That's stupid. You would never do
That's
that
insane.
with a real
Yeah,
person." But
correct.
we're doing the same thing with AI right now.
Yeah. Yeah, it blows my mind sometimes seeing it, but I understand, everyone wants to keep up and be in those latest trends as well. And we are a time poor more and more, especially as business owners, I know. And so finding tools that can speed up those things or help us enhance those things is definitely a win, I guess, for everyone. All right. So last thing is, if I'm starting to use AI in my business tomorrow, so I haven't touched it, haven't used it, what would be the first thing you would say to a business owner about what they should check or look into about AI before implementing it in their business?
I think probably the biggest factor that I see playing out in most conversations I have about AI is people oftentimes still don't understand the limits of it. So even the concept of hallucination, that AI will sometimes just make stuff up because it's not actually... there's a lot of smoke and mirrors to make it seem like it's this thinking, feeling thing that has agency, but under the hood, it's actually just a mathematical algorithm.
Yes.
And a lot of it comes down to just building statistical relationships between words that commonly occur together and that kind of thing. And it makes mistakes because it thinks what it's saying, the words make sense. But, and if we don't have that filter up to say, well, actually, let's fact check this. Let's make sure this does make sense. It's really easy to just kind of get stuck in the flow of it because it feels so human.
Correct.
But that and many of the other kind of limitations around AI, I think if you understand those limits first and foremost, you can then start making informed decisions about where it makes sense in the business.
Yes.
But you have to start with understanding the limits of it. If you just dive straight in and you just, first day using ChatGPT, this is great, let's get all the staff to use it.
Yes.
It's going to be a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, and I hear it from business owners now. They say, I just get ChatGPT to come up with my posts for the next, month. And it's like, okay, so what did you feed it to get all that information? And how did you... build that framework, and have you read back the post content that it's actually generating and so on. And look, don't get me wrong, we utilize the platform to support us in what we do. However, we use it with a lot of information given and plugged in about our client, about who they are, what they are.
Too, right?
Correct. And then we read the outputs and then we give it feedback about that output by saying, no, not quite right, this needs to be this, change this language, etc., because it's going to then learn, obviously, the more we give it.
So I think learning that, whether it's in the form of a course or a workshop, or like there's plenty of stuff out there that will teach you. They call it prompt engineering, if you want the fancy term, but just learn how to interact with the AI, and that actually will give a lot of context for what its limits are as well.
Yeah.
So definitely, rather than just diving in and trying it, I would suggest that people try to get a little bit of education first.
Yeah, 100%.
And it'll be an eye-opener.
Agreed. All right, well, I think we've covered off everything we need to about that for now. Obviously, I think as this beast continues to grow, especially in the business sphere, we'll continue to have discussions around AI and how it impacts your business and how it might integrate with your business. But thank you for coming along to have a chat with us on The Hop.
Absolute pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for tuning in. So that's a wrap on this episode of The Hop, a marketing podcast with a business edge. So if you've enjoyed the show, don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe on your favourite podcast platform, and connect with us on social media. Have you got something to share? Apply to be a guest on our show. Just head to our website and let's have a chat. Thanks for tuning in. And until next time, keep your marketing smart, your business sharp, and your brand hopping.